In a recent interview with Empire, the head of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, talked a little bit about the post-credit scene of Thunderbolts, and what he had to say really made fans think twice about what the purpose of the scene was. In today's video, we are going to be talking about what exactly his comments and the post-credit scene itself could mean for the future of the MCU, especially with Fantastic Four First Steps, and I answer a couple of your mailbag questions. With that said, let's roll the intro. So, for a recap, let's talk a little bit about the post-credit scene of Thunderbolts. The post-credit scene is set a year after the conclusion of the movie, and the Thunderbolts, now known as the New Avengers, are discussing the legitimacy of their team and the fact that the former Avengers are not taking them seriously. We also hear about disturbances in space that they are unaware of, leading to them intercepting a distress signal, and we see that it's coming from a ship bearing the Fantastic Four emblem. Now, everybody assumed that this was going to dovetail off the ending of Fantastic Four First Steps, the major theory being that the 1960s Earth the Fantastic Four are from will be destroyed by Galactus, sending them to search the multiverse for a new home, resulting in them finding Earth 616 and being followed by Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom. However, this is where Kevin Feige's recent comments have come into play. He said, "Their ship is the Excelsior, and there is a Fantastic Four ship entering the MCU, but I'm not sure they're the same ship." Now, the main response to this is the fact that they are just two completely different ships, and Kevin Feige's main goal with this is just to create some conversation and theorizing around what that could mean for the ending of Thunderbolts. I have seen a couple interesting theories that I'm going to discuss here, but my main belief is the fact that he's acknowledging that the Excelsior is the one that we see in the Fantastic Four trailer, and that this is a separate ship that's capable of traveling the multiverse. Now, the first theory that I don't really buy too much into is that due to the naming of the ship being the Excelsior, which in the comics is an alternate universe of Reed Richards' ship, the Marvel One, is that in addition to the group that we will meet in Fantastic Four First Steps, we will also see an alternate universe version of the Fantastic Four in Avengers Doomsday. Now, this is mostly coming from people who want to see an alternate casting for the Fantastic Four, people who really want to see John Krasinski get a more meaty role for Mr. Fantastic in a future movie, and possibly see the other fan-casted members of the Fantastic Four, including Emily Blunt. But again, I don't buy into this. Krasinski wasn't even the first choice to be cast as Mr. Fantastic in Multiverse of Madness. He just happened to be available when their first choice wasn't able to make it. And I think it was a fun cameo at the time, but I don't really need to see much more of Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. But yeah, overall, I don't think we need a different group of Fantastic Four characters running around in the same movie. It strikes me as a bit unnecessary. But the decision to also score this part of the post-credit scene with the Fantastic Four theme music also leads me to believe that this is the same group of characters from First Steps. Something the MCU has struggled with in the past is creating memorable musical motifs for a lot of their characters. They've gotten much better with in recent years. Most of the characters have a recognizable piece of music that accompanies them, and it's something we saw in the Doomsday casting reveal. But my favorite example of this is in Spider-Man No Way Home. Since Spider-Man Homecoming, Tom Holland has had his own musical theme for his version of Spider-Man, and they made use of the iconic Danny Elfman and James Horner themes for Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's versions of Peter Parker. They really didn't need to use that music for Thunderbolts post-credit scene, but the fact they did leads me to believe that this has to be the same exact team that we've met in First Steps. But I want to wrap this up with one additional fan theory that I just thought was a lot of fun. Some have speculated that Dr. Doom is actually going to be using this ship. He comes from the same universe as the Fantastic Four, and decides to hijack their ship in order to traverse the multiverse. So when this ship arrives on Earth, they won't be greeted by the Fantastic Four, but instead they'll be greeted by somebody they assume is a variant of Tony Stark. Now, we know that Doom's main goal in this movie from certain leaks, especially from Alan Cumming talking about what he's going to be doing as Nightcrawler, is that the characters of the Marvel Cinematic Universe will be facing off against the characters from the X-Men universe, something orchestrated by Doom in order to expedite the incursion between these two universes, allowing him to create his own universe, which will be Battleworld, and we'll see that in Avengers Secret Wars. Now, I think there's possibly some truth in that theory, but I maintain the Fantastic Four from First Steps are definitely going to be the ones in this ship. Feige was only saying that this is a different ship than the one that we saw in the teasers for Fantastic Four First Steps. His main goal here just to further fan speculation and theorizing in the lead up to Fantastic Four First Steps being released in theaters, which tickets have been on sale for a couple of days now, and it's already leading in movie ticket pre-sales for 2025. I'm curious to see what those numbers will look like for Superman, as that's the biggest movie it's up against, but we'll have to wait and see. Before we wrap things up here, I will be answering some of your mailbag questions. If you have a question that you want us to answer in a future video, leave it down in the comments below with the hashtag mailbag. Today's question comes from Marcos Torres, and they ask, who do you think Sam Wilson will recruit for his Avengers team? And this is a really great question. Well, let's start by looking at the cast for Avengers Doomsday so far. It has been said that following Brave New World, Sam Wilson has already assembled his Avengers team. First thing we're going to do looking at this cast is strike off any Fantastic Four, X-Men, or New Avengers. And I'm going to start with 3 definite answers. Joaquin Torres as Falcon, Shuri as Black Panther, and Scott Lang as Ant-Man. I think Sam Wilson's main goal with this new team of Avengers is to keep it as small as the original team was back in 2012. And his main goal with this team is going to be trying to keep it Earth-based. So I'm pretty sure that's why Captain Marvel is not on the roster. But I think Shang-Chi is also going to be part of that Avengers team. He's met Wong previously and has interacted with both Carol Danvers and Bruce Banner. And the last spot on the team I think belongs to Thor. Now, we don't know where he's been following the conclusion of Love and Thunder, but I feel like the option for him to rejoin the team whenever he wants is there. He's one of the few founding members of the Avengers who are still around. Hawkeye, I think there's a possibility he could be on the team, but it seems like he's leaning more towards retirement with his family right now. And Bruce Banner hasn't really played a main role as a fighting Avenger, acting more as support for the team. So I'm pretty sure that's the main roster of actual Avengers that we're going to be seeing in this movie, but I feel like the door is open for other team members to be included. Thank you so much for that question. I hope you enjoyed my answer. Our next and final question comes from Jake Byron Jones. They ask, do you think we'll see Tom Cruise as an alternate universe version of Superior Iron Man in Doomsday and Secret Wars? And I'm sorry to let you down if you were really excited to see something like that happen. I genuinely don't think so. If there was one place I would have assumed this would have happened, it would have been in Multiverse of Madness. If it did happen, I think that would be really cool. If you weren't aware, Tom Cruise expressed interest in playing Tony Stark way back in the late 90s, and the MCU has had fun recently playing with these possible casting situations, like what we saw with the previously mentioned John Krasinski cameo in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and more recently with giving Channing Tatum the opportunity to finally play Gambit after being attached to the character for nearly a decade. And another thing that may get in the way with that is that Tom Cruise, after concluding the Mission Impossible franchise, has moved over to Warner Brothers Discovery in order to produce original content for them. So I think there's like the slightest possibility, like a percentage of a possibility that we get some kind of Tom Cruise cameo in Doomsday or Secret Wars. But if it was only a cameo, I think a lot of people would be very disappointed. And honestly, I just don't think it's worth Tom Cruise's time right now. Thank you so much for your question. I'm crossing my fingers and hope that maybe you're right, but unfortunately I just don't see it that way. That's gonna do it for today's video. A reminder once again, if you want your questions answered in a future video, leave it down below with the hashtag mailbag. Let me know what you think about the theories revolving around Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, and I will see you in the next video.